Good day everyone. Today we're going to be talking about simple interest. Our objectives for this session would be to illustrate the different kinds of interest, specifically simple interest. We hope to compute interest, maturity value, future value, and present value in simple interest, and identify the different formulas we're going to be using in computing these values, and then finally solve problems or word problems involving simple interest. To start with, let us first discuss what is simple interest all about. So when people need to secure funds for some purposes, one of the ways they resort to is borrowing money. So when they borrow money, it could either be on another person or an institution, usually a bank. This person or institution lends the money to the person who wishes to borrow, and they wish to get something in return for the use of the money. So this something that they wish to get from the borrower is an amount corresponding to a certain fractional part of the money borrowed. So let us first discuss the different terminology or definition of terms that we'll encounter for the duration of this discussion. So the person who borrows money for any purpose, from what we've discussed from the introduction, is called the debtor or co-maker. There are also instances wherein another person will be asked as a co-maker for the person who is borrowing money. So he is also obliged to pay for the amount or to cover for some amounts of the maker or the debtor. But we're going to be discussing that in future discussions. Okay, next. So the next one is the lender. So the lender is usually a person or institution which loans the money. So these are the two different individuals or institutions that might borrow and will lend money, the debtor and the maker. The next term that we need to take note of is the word interest. So the interest is the payment for the use of borrowed money. So this is what is that something that will be asked by the lender, or the institution. So they will ask for an amount, and it is called the interest. So it is also a payment for the borrowing of money, or a fractional part of the money that was borrowed. Okay, and then for the next word, the capital or sum of the money invested or borrowed is called the principal. So let's say subject A will be borrowing a certain amount of money. So if he is going to be borrowing 1,000 pesos, that 1,000 pesos is called the principal. Okay, next. So another set of words that we need to take note of is the rate of interest. So the rate of interest is different from the interest because the interest is the amount, while the rate of interest is the fractional part of the principal that will be paid on the loan. So usually it is in percent form or in decimal form. So that's how we distinguish interest and rate of interest. Okay, so aside from the interest and the principal, there is also a term or a length of time involved wherein the money will be borrowed. So the time or term is the number of units of the time for which the money is borrowed or for which interest is calculated. Because interest and the rate of interest and the term affects how much the borrower will be paying to the lender. And then finally, the final amount or maturity value is the amount to be paid by the borrower or the maker, which is a combination of the principal and the interest. And then aside from that, if you are going to be computing for the amount received by the borrower in terms of a given set of values like the final amount, that is called the present value. There are instances in which you are going to be computing for the present value given the final amount that was paid by the borrower or the maker. Okay. So let's now move to the differences between the different interests that you're going to be encountering. So the first one is simple interest. It is an interest in which only the original principal bears interest for the entire term of the loan. While the compound interest is an interest added to the principal at the end of a certain period of time after which interest is computed on the new principal. So there is another computation, no, wherein an interest is computed for the original principal, and there will be a new principal that will be computed for using the interest or the rate of interest that was subjected to or agreed upon. Okay, so for this session, we're going to be focusing first on simple interest, and let's have an example here. Okay, so an example of a simple interest is that John F. borrows 10,000 at a rate of 12% per year. So if the loan is a simple interest loan, then the interest accumulated for the 10,000 pesos is 1,200 pesos. So from this first example, we could identify the principal as 10,000 pesos and the rate of interest as 12% per year. Since this is only for 1 year, the term or the unit of time is 1 year only, while the interest that was accumulated for this 12% rate in a term of 1 year is 1,200 pesos. So at the end of the year or at the end of 1 year, John F. should pay the lender, or it could either be an institution, a total of 11,200 pesos, which is the sum of the principal 10,000 pesos and the interest, which is 1,200 pesos. Okay, so how are we going to compute for the interest and how are we going to compute for the final value or the final amount? So in computing for the interest, it is simply just multiplying the principal, the rate of interest, and then the unit of time or term, which is T. So I stands for simple interest, P for principal amount, R for rate or percent of interest, and then T is the unit or units of time. Okay, and then to compute or solve for the final amount, F is for the final amount, you just add principal amount and the simple interest. And if you are given with a final amount and a principal amount and you would like to find the interest, that would be I, which is equal to F, which is the final amount subtracted by the principal amount, which is P. Okay, let us now cover the different things that needs to be stated, no, in or needs to be covered in simple interest. So it's not usually the case that the term or the number of years which is in years. So there will be instances wherein the lender would borrow a certain amount of money in terms of months. So it's not always the case that the term is in years. So if the time expressed in number of years, so we'll use the formula I is equal to P multiplied by the rate of interest R, P is the principal, and multiplied by the number of years T. However, if the time is in terms of months or expressed in terms of months, the formula should be transformed or adjusted so that it will reflect the correct amount, no, in terms of the number of months. So the new formula now would be the interest I will be equal to P, which will be multiplied by R, which is principal times rate of interest, multiplied by the ratio between the number of months that the amount will be borrowed divided by 12. So we'll have the number of months divided by 12. For example, it will be for 9 months only, so it will be 9 divided by 12. Okay, so this is for the simple interest. So in terms of the time expressed in number of months. Okay, so let us try to answer the following exercises for us to be better prepared, no, in solving for a simple interest or given word problems involving simple interest. So if you are encountering different rates of interest, it's usually expressed in percent form. This percent form should be first expressed in decimal form before you're going to be multiplying it to the principal and the number of years or the units of time. So for number 1, if it's 1.25%, it should be expressed as 0.0125, which is the decimal form of 125%. For 96%, it's 0.96. if you have a fractional part in your percent form, you could first change that to decimal form and then express that percent with the decimal into a decimal form. In this case, 5 and 1/2 could be better expressed as 5.5%. Okay, so from there, you could multiply that you could divide that 5.5% by 100, giving you 0.055, or you could just move the decimal place 2 units or 2 decimal places to the left. So in this case, 5.5%, let me use my pen here. So 5.5%, so we have 5.5%. So if we have 5.5%, we just move these 2 decimal places to the left. So we'll have 1, 2. The new decimal place will be here. So we could write 0 there, and then we'll have 0 there, giving us 0.055, which is in decimal form. Okay, moving forward, we'll have 25.75%. That will now be equal to 0.2575, and then finally 0.17% would be 0.0017. Okay, another exercise that we need to take into account is that if the number of years is expressed, or the unit of time is expressed in months, we need to translate it or to express it in terms of number of years. So 36 months will be equal to 3 years. So this is just 36 divided by 12 because there are 12 months in 1 year. However, if we are given with 6 months, that 6 months will be still divided by 12 months, so you'll have 0.5 years. Moving forward, for 75 months, that would be equal to 6 years or 72 months and a remainder of 3 months, so that would be 3 divided by 12, so that's 6.25. And then finally, 15 months would be equal to 1.25 years. Okay, so let us now move to a few problems involving simple interest. So in this given, we are given with a principal P, a rate of interest which is 4%, and a unit of time which is T is equal to 3 and 1/4 years. So the missing value here is the interest, and you could solve that using the formula I is equal to P times R times T. Okay, so you could just express this into decimal form. You could also express this in decimal form so that you could immediately substitute those values in this formula that we have here. Okay, let us now try another example. So we are again given with an interest and a principal and a rate. However, there's no time indicated. So what we're looking for, or what we should be computing for, is that unit of time T, or the term T. Okay, so to solve for T here, we just manipulate the formula that we have here. Since we have I is equal to P times R times T, we could just divide both sides by P and R so that only T will be left on one side of the equation. So we'll now have T, or the term, will be equal to the interest divided by the product of P and R. Okay, so you just then substitute this value, and what you will be computing here would now be the term. Okay, it usually will be in a whole number and a decimal form. Okay, so let us now go through a word problem involving simple interest. And for that example, let's have number 1. So for number 1, find the interest and amount on 800 pesos at 6.5% simple interest for 5 years. So for the given values that we have here, we have P, which is 800, that's the principal. 6.5% would be the rate of interest, and then the term is 5 years. So we have that listed there, and we could now substitute those values to find for the interest. So for the interest will be equal to 260 pesos. However, if we would want to know the final amount or the maturity value of this amount 800 pesos after 5 years. So the borrower will be paying 1,060 pesos, which is the sum of the interest and the principal, which is 800 and 260 pesos. Okay. So for example number 2, next is find the interest and amount on 900 pesos at 7 and 1/4% simple interest for 9 months. So we need to take note of the 9 months here because this is not expressed in years. So we need to convert that into decimal, or we need to convert that into years rather. Our rate of interest is 7 and 1/4% while our principal is 900, which is listed here. Notice that the rate of interest was transformed into decimal form as well as the term, which is 9 months. So 9 months or 9 divided by 12 will be equal to 0.75. We now find the interest by multiplying these values together with the principal. So our interest is 489.375 pesos. Okay, so to find the amount now, since we already have the interest, we just add the interest and the principal, 900 and 489.375, and we'll now have a maturity value or a final amount, which is 1,389.375 pesos. Okay, so with that, thank you very much everyone, and see you on our next video.